Hello, I'm Joanna Rose from Thales Software Monetization. I'm here with Karen Camara and Vince Jannelli of Sharp Electronics Corporation. Vince and Karen, if you wouldn't mind just starting off with a brief introduction about yourself and your organization.
Thank you, Joanna. I do appreciate that. Just a question: who came up with that title? We don't see ourselves as trailblazers, but that's all right. Very happy to be here. My name is Vince Jannelli, responsible for product management, software product management at Sharp Electronics, which is the American sales and marketing arm of Sharp Corporation. We work, both Karen and myself, in the B2B division of the organization. You know, you can think of products as copiers, displays, also the Dynabook line of laptops. My team in particular is responsible for device firmware, APIs, and the third-party ecosystem that leverages those APIs, and of course, software itself with a particular focus on subscriptions, cloud services. It's interesting because our time, and I think this is germane to the conversation that we're going to have today, is really split between supporting existing product categories in well-established markets and incubating new offerings.
Hi, I'm Karen Camara, and my team is responsible for the Sharp Partner Program and licensing. The Partner Program is a community of providers offering products or services that are complementary to Sharp. And this is that ecosystem Vince mentioned. It's an essential part of our go-to-market strategy because these third-party companies, their products add even more value to Sharp's. On the licensing front, I own the relationship with Thales and focus on optimizing the license system for our channel partners. This includes enhancements to the system to support new strategic initiatives.
So we're thrilled to have the both of you here because you are the people who are going to be able to really shed some light on how you were able to lay the foundation to enable a new strategic direction for the company. So if you could give us an overview of how that came about and what you're seeing as a result.
Well, just and succinctly, let me say that, you know, our story is really about supporting the strategic direction of the organization. What does that mean? Well, it's really a mix. It's not owned just from the product perspective, but involves IT operation, and that infrastructure has to evolve to support the new offerings. And then the support infrastructure itself, how do we take care of our customers and our channel partners, needs to evolve. And in that evolution, we looked at both short-term and midterm goals. In the midterm goals, it's really about diversifying the revenue mix. But in the short term, just as important, we needed to show some wins early on. And some of those goals included internal process improvements, you know, driving efficiency into the organization. And very important to us is how our channel partners work and interact with us. So we needed to improve that experience. That is one of our go-to-market focuses, is really to be a channel-friendly organization.
And that sounds like a daunting task. I mean, there are a lot of elements involved in what you just laid out. When you're about to embark on a project of that size, how do you take it in bite-sized pieces? How do you even jump in? How does it start?
Yeah, I'm going to take a breath there and think about that. I think the focus of it is it's got to start with C-level sponsorship, right? We need a common vision, and you know, the executives need to drive that message consistently throughout the organization. Why is that important? Because that's what creates alignment, and that is key in order to be successful. As I alluded to earlier, there's many different parts that are involved in this transformation. And so everybody needs to work together. You know, it's Pete Drucker that said that culture eats strategy for breakfast. What that means is you can have the best strategy in the world, but if the people don't believe and they aren't ready for the change, it's not going to be successful. And so, you know, it's in the implementation that you need the people on board. The second thing is deliver success at each milestone, you know, major phase of the project. That allows us to demonstrate a return on the investment, even though it was justified from a strategic direction. But that gets and encourages and gets the project the legs it needs for further investment down the road.
That's right. And for us, the first step was the low-hanging fruit. Like imagine Sally, who's responsible for manual processes of activating the licenses for the entire dealership. Now she's out on vacation when a license key is needed, and now we'll have to first wait for her to return and then get, through her backlog of emails that she received while she was out. And then she's finally able to address your product key need. So we actually felt that pain ourselves. So we understood the assignment, as the kids say nowadays. So keep in mind, though, our situation is unique because we're a subsidiary driving both global product development as well as local IT resources. So to kick it off, we had to bring in different groups together to juggle everyone's requirements and ensure we were building a system that was a solution and not creating more issues upstream or downstream. And then from a product standpoint, there's navigating through the multiple requirements, backlog, and prioritization from multiple groups and locations globally. We have developers in the US and India. We have a parent company in Japan and product teams in North America and Europe, not to mention affiliates throughout the world. So we had to also think about our local finance and IT, as well as the operations and sales teams for multiple sales channels. And they all had different requirements. So ultimately, though, we had to balance priorities with budget.
Priorities with budget, but also I'm wondering, it sounds like you had a lot of manual processes and you're a technology company. You have software engineers that work for Sharp. I mean, you have the resources to put together your own homegrown systems. What made you decide to partner with Thales Software Monetization?
Well, Joanna, it's interesting because the internal development is what led us to have all these different systems to start with. Each product group did their own development, as you said, with technology company, great developers on the team and the different groups, but every system was different. So as a subsidiary that's selling into a single channel, to a single partner, all these different products, it really didn't work. And so in order to be neutral to some of the internal politics, let's say, we researched different providers that were out there. We talked to industry experts as well. And we tried to get some firsthand experience as much as possible. The reason for all that effort is what we were after was not somebody that had the best technology only, but also an organization that had this right culture and was a good fit for us. We wanted to find somebody that we thought we could go down this journey with to meet both our current needs as well as our long-term vision.
Well, culture obviously plays a big role in the organization at Sharp. I mean, you talked about Peter Drucker, culture eats, what was the expression? Culture eats
strategy for breakfast.
Strategy for breakfast.
That's right.
And we also have an internal culture of service and being supportive of our customers. So I'm really thrilled to hear what you had to say, that we're living up to our promise. What is it that is happening with the relationship? What is going on, as you move forward with your offerings and your entitlements and your whole project? So how's that going?
Let me start, and then I'll pass it off to Karen, because I think Karen can share with you a good story of one of the ways in which you were able to accomplish that. As a matter of fact, I'm not even going to say anything. I'm just going to pass it off to Karen because I think the story is the most appropriate answer right now.
Okay.
Don't you agree, Karen?
I would definitely agree. Thales was the best fit, although we did find that there was a gap, not having a channel portal. And that was essential for us, providing a one-stop portal for our dealers where they can activate their product licenses and generate their own keys, as well as have an archive of their keys that they can go back and retrieve later when they needed it. So you see, a channel portal was a necessity for us. And we were able to achieve that through the Thales professional services engagement.
Okay, so because you're selling predominantly through the channel, the portal, are you still able to see the end user, or are you blocked by just seeing what is happening through your channel? Are you able to have that visibility to your end user as well?
That's up to the channel partner, Joanna. You know, it's a relationship that we have with them, and they can enter the information, or they can choose to anonymize the information in the portal. I will say that we do sell direct as well. And in those direct operations, we do have that end customer contact available to us.
And in terms of your speeding up your activation, your time to activation, because I hear you saying about if Sally's out on vacation and what are we going to do? And we have a backlog. And as a result of implementing this platform, you're able to avoid that bottleneck. What is the difference you're seeing between the time to activation before versus now?
I'm going to let Karen answer that, but I will say one thing. Sally's vacation was well deserved, so let's not beat up too bad on Sally. Unfortunately, it was the process she was supporting that was at fault, not her.
Right. Well, overall, the engagement helped us to consolidate our disparate systems and have one integrated system that takes the dealer from the point of purchase through the activation and archiving of their activations. So we have a seamless system now with Thales. And most importantly, it helps save the time to activation. So, things that would typically have gone, for a week to 2 weeks while Sally was out on vacation, those things can now be done and generated virtually instantaneously.
Wow.
So, yeah. So, and not to mention the fact that it's all in one portal. There's no need to toggle different technologies for the dealer to support their customer.
Remember earlier when we were talking about it, Joanna, we were saying how, even though the investment was viewed from a strategic perspective, it was important to show some short-term payoffs. And this improvement of being able to move from, weeks in the worst case, really, but, a day or 2 days, depending on Sally's workload or what have you, to near instantaneous really improves our customer service, right?
Yeah.
And more importantly, it's a reduction in soft costs, both for the channel partner and for us, because it frees up people's time from chasing this manual activation, entitlement creation, licensing process to where they can do, more value added aspects of their function. One thought that comes to mind a little bit too is that over time, the project has matured. So initially, it was seen from a strategic investment, right? The short-term payoffs got us more investment as we matured through our experience. But now we're at the point where we're starting to look at this investment from a cost of goods sold perspective. And that's it's a transition that occurred in our organization. I'm not sure about other organizations out there. But that's why it's important that the project is successful and more business starts to go through it, because you get to amortize, which are mostly fixed costs for the system, and then some professional development costs across a greater share of business. So that is part of the success as well.
And before we close, I would just love for each of you to share one parting word of wisdom for the audience today on a piece of advice that you would give them for anybody starting down this digital transformation path that you are embarked on.
Just one, really? I don't know if we can do that, but let me think about it. Well, first, have a handoff plan in place. What's the transition plan? When you kick off a new entitlement project or monthly recurring revenue, whatever your organization is going through and how they think about it, is you're going to have an incubation team. You're going to have a kickstart. People are going to join this project. Everybody's going to be excited, but they have day jobs. They're going to get it rolling. But at what point does it go from, incubation to, let's say, process team, and, decide that up front. speaking about deciding things up front is also decide on the vision, right? And that's the alignment, probably coming from the C-level suite that needs to be driven through the organization. But what are you doing really? Is this about net new revenue, or is it about change in existing revenue? I'll leave it to the organizations out there to decide that. Just let me say that those two things are both right. Neither is wrong. It's just they have different needs. And so the priorities of your investment and your, development and your objectives will vary based upon which direction you're going in.
And for me, I think it's important to get everyone on board early. It's necessary to identify those champions at every level because, as Vince was saying, like things change and different priorities are all the time for everyone that's involved. So you need to prioritize and make sure that you prioritize flexibility in your initial development because you don't want to sacrifice agility.
Yeah, Karen, that is such an important point. I think everybody out there knows that competitive advantage isn't a thing. It's just a moment in time. The market changes. And so, as an organization, we believe we can't let up on change. And that's the journey that we're on.
Wow, that's pretty interesting. I would love a whole nother webinar just with the two of you on remaining agile and flexible. That was a great point to end on. I really appreciate it. Thank you both for your time and for your insights and for being with us today.
Thank you for having us. We
Thank
appreciated
you.
it.